Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cutting through the noise to get to the heart of something absolutely crucial. Doesn't matter if you're leading a multinational company, a small department, or really just trying to make sense of your own team dynamics. We're diving into the world of team dysfunction, drawing exclusively from Patrick Lencioni's insightful book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, a leadership fable. Our mission today, it's not just about retelling this pretty compelling story. We want to extract the core insights, really understand Lencioni's interconnected model, and see how these powerful principles play out in a very real, very human environment. You'll walk away with clear takeaways on what makes teams truly cohesive, and maybe more importantly, why it's often, as Lencioni puts it, painfully difficult to achieve.
It really is a fascinating look at why even the most talented groups can falter. We'll meet a struggling Silicon Valley startup, DecisionTech, and their new CEO, Kathryn Petersen. She's a bit of an underdog. And we'll unpack her unconventional journey to transform an executive team that's, well, let's just say profoundly dysfunctional.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So DecisionTech. On paper, it looked like the Silicon Valley dream, right? Promising startup, top-tier investors. They had this supposedly indestructible business plan and a really experienced, expensive executive team. But just 2 years in, that dream was cracking, seriously cracking. Deadlines were slipping, key employees were heading for the doors, morale, it had completely tanked. To the point where Lencioni writes, backstabbing among the executives had become an art. Wow.
Ouch, yeah. And this wasn't just like low performance. It was a fundamental lack of unity.
Right.
Which, of course, just crippled their commitment to anything. Eventually, the board had to step in. They removed the co-founder, Jeff Shanley, as CEO, because the whole atmosphere was just so political and unpleasant.
Right. And that's where Kathryn Petersen enters the picture. And she was, by all accounts, a totally unlikely choice for a high-tech CEO role.
Completely. She was 57. Her background was in the military. She'd taught 7th grade, had an MBA from, I think it's Cal State Hayward. And most of her career was in, let's say, decidedly low-tech companies. Think automobile manufacturing.
So no real high-tech experience didn't exactly fit the DecisionTech culture, as they say.
Not at all. But what's fascinating here is the chairman. Despite Jeff's, obvious failure, he insisted on Kathryn. He believed her amazing gift for building teams was exactly what DecisionTech desperately needed. It was a big bet.
A huge bet. So she wasn't hired for tech know-how, but for leadership. You can really see the gamble there. And her initial strategy definitely caught everyone off guard. First 2 weeks, she apparently did almost nothing at all. Just, walked the halls, chatted with people, observed meetings. She even let Jeff, the former CEO, keep leading them for a bit.
Right. And then her most controversial action, according to the team anyway, was announcing these 2-day executive retreats in Napa Valley, no less.
You can just imagine the executives thinking, Napa now, when there's so much real work to be done.
Exactly. But Kathryn actually felt her lack of software experience was an advantage. It let her focus purely on the leadership side, kind of like Jack Welch at GE or Herb Kelleher at Southwest Airlines. They weren't experts in every detail either.
Makes sense. But she quickly realized, as Lencioni puts it, just how dysfunctional her executive team was and how they would challenge her in ways that no one before had ever done.
Oh, absolutely. And this team, it was quite the collection. They were often called the staff because apparently no one referred to them as a team. That says a lot, doesn't it?
It really does. Meetings were tense, slow, boring, just few real exchanges.
So you had Jeff Shanley, the co-founder, now in business development, good generalist, great at fundraising, but ran meetings like a student body president reading from a textbook on protocol. And he didn't seem bothered that, nothing ever seemed to get done.
Okay. Then there was Mikey Bebe in marketing, described as a brand-building genius, but maybe lacked a few key social graces.
That's putting it mildly. Talked a lot, complained constantly about past jobs, and famously rolled her eyes in apparent disgust.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Least popular, not surprisingly. And Martin Gilmore, the tech guru.
Martin. Chief technologist, company founder, the keeper of the crown jewels. Brilliant guy, but he rarely participated in meetings, always had his laptop open, seemed constantly busy with email or something else, and very sarcastic.
The classic detached tech genius. Okay, who else?
J.R. Rollins in sales. Experienced, seemed agreeable enough, but rarely followed through. But he kept respect because he always hit his revenue numbers. That was his saving grace, I guess.
Interesting. And Carlos Amador in customer support.
Carlos sounds like the quiet rock. Constructive, listened intently, worked for long hours, low maintenance, trustworthy. Often took on the unattractive duties nobody else wanted.
Every team needs a Carlos. Then there was John Marcino, the CFO.
Jan, a stickler for detail, knew the industry inside out, treated company money as though it were her own. Very key in fundraising.
Okay, solid finance lead. And finally, Nick Farrell, the COO.
Nick, most impressive on paper, demanded the COO title. But his role was kind of ill-defined, not much day-to-day work. And he apparently felt his colleagues were inferior to him and secretly believed he should be the CEO.
Wow. Okay, so that's the lineup. Talented individuals, absolutely. But together, a recipe for disaster, a real powder keg. So with this collection of personalities, how did Kathryn even start to make a dent?
Well, her first moves were really direct. No messing around. She immediately got pushback on those Napa retreats. First from Martin, who tried to bail for a sales meeting. Kathryn confronted him face-to-face, insisted he attend. She even used her connection with the CEO of that customer, ASA, to show she wasn't bluffing.
Okay, showing some teeth early on.
Yep. Then Jeff, the former CEO, tried to mediate for Martin, arguing the customer meeting was more important. Kathryn just shut it down. Her priority was crystal clear. We need to get our act together as a team, or we're not going to be selling anything, period.
That takes guts, especially as the new CEO facing the old guard.
Absolutely. And her decisiveness even got back to the chairman of the board. He called her, sounded a little concerned, maybe urged her to build a few bridges.
Uh-oh, board interference already.
But Kathryn's response, it was powerful. She basically said, look, if you know how to do what I'm trying to do, you wouldn't need me. And then she used this incredible analogy. A fractured team is just like a broken arm or leg. Fixing it is always painful, and sometimes you have to re-break it to make it heal correctly.
Re-break it? Wow.
And she added, the re-break hurts a lot more than the initial break, because you have to do it on purpose.
That is intense. How did the chairman react?
He gave her his full support. That conviction, that clarity, it won him over.
That concept of a re-break, it's fascinating, isn't it? It suggests sometimes the kindest thing is short-term pain for long-term health. Definitely sets a tone.
Absolutely. And it set the tone for that first Napa retreat. Kathryn didn't pull any punches in her opening speech. She laid out the brutal truth. DecisionTech had more experienced execs, more cash, better tech, more board connections than their competitors. Yet, she said, in spite of all that, we are behind.
Straight to the point.
And the core problem, we are not functioning as a team. In fact, we are quite dysfunctional. She even warned them, it is very possible that some of us here won't find the new company to be the kind of place where we want to be.
So putting them on notice right away.
Yep. But she also clarified this wasn't about, trust falls or catching each other falling out of trees or holding hands, singing songs, or getting naked.
Good clarification for that crowd, probably.
Right. It was about achieving results. That, she said, was the only true measure of a team.
Okay, so results focused from the start. Then she unveiled the model.
Exactly, the famous 5 dysfunctions model. She drew a pyramid on a whiteboard, split it into 5 sections. And what's really key here is it's a pyramid. Each level depends on the one below it. At the very bottom, the foundation, she wrote, absence of trust.
Absence of trust, okay.
Defined as the team members' unwillingness to be vulnerable within the group. Basically, a failure on the part of team members to understand and open up to one another. She stressed that great teams, they admit their mistakes, their weaknesses, and their concerns without fear of reprisal. Vulnerability-based trust.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you build that kind of trust, vulnerability-based trust, when you've got these successful, competitive executives who are naturally protective of their image?
Exactly. It sounds almost impossible with that kind of high-stakes group.
So what was her first step? How did she start chipping away at that protectiveness?
Well, the resistance started immediately, as you'd expect. Jan, the CFO, questioned the whole absence of trust assessment. Kathryn pointed to the lack of debate in meetings as clear evidence. Mikey, of course, blamed lack of time.
Predictable.
But then Jeff, the former CEO, actually spoke up. He said, no, I think we're just not comfortable challenging each other. Carlos agreed. And Nick, ever the blunt one, added, I don't think we agree on anything.
Okay, so some self-awareness was starting to creep in.
A little. Then Kathryn tackled a visible symptom. Martin's constant laptop use. She confronted him directly, right there in the session. Set a ground rule. Be present and participate.
How did that go over?
Mikey tried to defend him, citing high-tech culture, multitasking and all that. But Kathryn shut that down, too. It's more of a behavioral issue than a technological one. And Martin, he actually closed his laptop.
Wow. A small win, but significant shows she means business.
Definitely. It's a classic symptom, isn't it? We've all seen the Martin in meetings, physically there but mentally checked out. Clear sign of disengagement.
Totally. So how did she actively build that trust? Closing laptops is one thing, opening up is another.
Right. She used a deceptively simple tool, the personal histories exercise. Just ask them to answer some non-intrusive personal questions. Things like, where'd you grow up? How many siblings? Any interesting childhood challenges? Hobbies? First job? Worst job? Stuff like that.
Okay, low risk gets people talking about something other than work.
Exactly. And it revealed some surprising, humanizing details. Carlos was the oldest of 9 kids. Mikey had studied ballet seriously at Juilliard.
Juilliard, wow.
Yep. Jeff had been a Red Sox bat boy as a kid. Martin grew up partly in India. JR had an identical twin. John was a military brat. Even Nick found a connection. He'd played basketball against Kathryn's husband in college. And Kathryn herself, an all-American volleyball player.
See, those little details, they make people real, don't they? Not just titles on an org chart.
Precisely. It's not about deep, dark secrets. It's about revealing genuine human vulnerability, just small, relatable things. And the result, Lencioni says, was that the team seemed tighter and more ease with each other than at any time during the past year.
That's powerful. Trust starts with seeing the shared humanity. Okay, so what came next?
They went a bit deeper with behavioral preferences, looking at results from tools like Myers-Briggs. And mostly, people enjoyed it, learning about themselves, their styles. Carlos teased Jan good-naturedly, Jeff razzed JR. Nick even called Martin a raging introvert, apparently.
So they were loosening up.
Most of them were. Except Mikey.
Mikey again.
Yep. Nick praised how accurate the personality descriptions felt, and Mikey just rolled her eyes. Nick actually called her out on it. Jan tried to gently encourage Mikey to, fess up to what she was thinking, but Mikey denied it, got offensive, called it all psychobabble.
Digging your heels in.
Totally.
Yeah.
Then Martin, with his typical sarcasm, piped up, "They're probably in Carmel," referring to the consultants who did the profiles, which made everyone laugh. Except Mikey. She then clammed up, went silent for like 90 minutes.
Yikes. That's awkward and telling. What did Kathryn make of that sustained resistance?
Well, Kathryn rightly saw Mikey's behavior was speaking volumes about her inability to trust her teammates. It wasn't just disagreement, it was refusal to engage. So Kathryn moved to another exercise, the awareness, strengths, and weaknesses exercise. Sounds simple, but Lencioni calls it deceptively critical. The task: identify your single biggest strength and your single biggest weakness for DecisionTech.
The weakness part. That requires vulnerability. How did that go?
Kathryn led by example. Her strength: cutting through fluffy, superfluous information. Her weakness: not the world's best external spokesperson, bad at PR, not always tactful.
Okay, honest. What about Nick?
Nick admitted his strength was fearless negotiation. His weakness: sometimes come across as arrogant, sarcastic, rude. He owned it.
Good for him. Jan.
Jan cited her strength in management, attention to detail. Weakness: being too conservative financially, maybe a bit controlling. And then Jeff, the former CEO, gave a really big admission. Strength: networking, fundraising. Weakness: being pretty afraid to fail.
Wow.
He even linked it directly to why he wasn't CEO anymore, saying his fear of failure made him over-engineer things and avoid telling people what to do, which ironically made failure more likely.
That's huge vulnerability right there. Must have landed heavily.
It did, which made Mikey's response stand out even more. Her strength: understanding the tech market, talking to analysts. Weakness: poor financial skills. The group felt it was, shallow, disappointing, given the depth others showed.
Yeah, a missed opportunity for her to connect. What about the others? Carlos.
Carlos's strength was actually pointed out by Jan, his follow-through. Willingness to do the shit work without complaint. His weakness: failing to update people, holding back his thoughts sometimes.
Interesting that someone else named his strength. JR.
JR: strength in building customer relationships. Weakness: tends to blow off things not directly related to closing deals. And the Martin, the technologist: strength: solving problems, analysis. Weakness: communicating with human beings, preferring intellectual chat. Can seem like he dislikes people.
And did Mikey react to that?
Oh yeah, that's when she sarcastically called Martin an arrogant SOB.
Classy. Okay, so the contrast in vulnerability was really stark there.
Yeah.
Especially with Mikey.
Absolutely clear. So after laying this foundation of trust, albeit a foundation with some obvious cracks like Mikey Kathryn, then jumped to the top of the pyramid. Dysfunction 5, inattention to results.
Skipping all the way to the top.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, to frame the ultimate goal first. This dysfunction is the tendency of team members to seek out individual recognition and attention at the expense of collective results. Ego over team wins. She used an analogy from her husband's basketball coaching days. Talented player, only cared about his own stats, got benched. Team started winning more.
Classic sports story.
Her lesson was clear. The leader's job is to build the best team, not just collect stars.
That's a challenge every leader faces, right? How do you make those collective results feel as real and motivating as a personal score, especially when individual stuff is so easy to track?
Totally. So for DecisionTech, Kathryn made it concrete. They brainstormed and landed on 7 key results categories they needed to track. Things like revenue, expenses, new customer acquisition, current customer satisfaction, employee retention, market awareness, and product quality. And they agreed to measure these monthly.
Okay, making it tangible, measurable.
Right. And after establishing that results were the ultimate aim, Kathryn then walked them back down the pyramid. She explained that to achieve those results, they had to deal with the stuff that was getting in the way, which brought her to dysfunction number 2.
Back down to the second level.
Yep. Dysfunction 2, fear of conflict.
The lack of healthy debate they talked about earlier.
Exactly. She explained that teams that lack trust are incapable of engaging in unfiltered and passionate debate of ideas. They avoid ideological conflict. She told them point blank, you have tension, lots of tension, but there is almost no constructive conflict.
And this is where it gets kind of counterintuitive for some people, right? That healthy conflict is actually a time saver.
Precisely. Avoiding those tough, passionate debates just means you kick the can down the road. You end up revisiting the same issues over and over because you never really resolve them. It's exhausting.
Like picking at a scab instead of letting it heal properly.
Okay, so lack of trust leads to fear of conflict. What's next down the pyramid?
That leads directly to dysfunction 3, lack of commitment. Makes sense. If you don't weigh in, you don't buy in.
Exactly. Lencioni writes, without having aired their opinions in the course of passionate and open debate, team members rarely, if ever, buy in and commit to decisions, even if they seem to agree in the meeting. And Kathryn stressed, this isn't a consensus thing. It's not about everyone getting their way. She said most reasonable people don't have to get their way into discussion. They just need to be heard and to know that their input was considered and responded to.
That's such a key insight. Being heard is often more important than winning the argument.
Absolutely. And JR actually introduced the concept of disagree and commit during this discussion, a vital practice for functional teams.
Okay, so no trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment. What's dysfunction number 4?
Dysfunction 4, avoidance of accountability.
Holding each other accountable. That's tough, especially with peers.
Really tough. Lencioni says without committing to a clear plan of action, even the most focused and driven people often hesitate to call their peers on actions and behaviors that seem counterproductive to the good of the team. Kathryn pointed out it usually stems from wanting to avoid interpersonal discomfort. We don't like confronting people we work with every day.
Yeah, nobody enjoys that awkwardness.
Martin used his own laptop habit as an example.
Yeah.
Nobody called him on it. Carlos admitted it's way harder to hold peers accountable than his own direct reports because we're supposed to be equals. And Mikey, interestingly, connected it back to the previous dysfunction. People aren't going to hold each other accountable if they haven't clearly bought into the same plan. They're linked.
It really paints a picture of how these dysfunctions cascade, doesn't it? One leads right into the next.
Totally interconnected. And to drive home the point about embracing conflict, Kathryn used another analogy. She said meetings should be interesting, like good movies. And what's the key ingredient for almost any great movie? Conflict. She promised them, every staff meeting we have will be loaded with conflict, and they won't be boring. And if there is nothing worth debating, then we won't have a meeting.
Bold promise. No boring meetings. I like it.
Me too. And then came the immediate application. Putting this into practice right away, she pushed them to define their single, overarching goal for the rest of the year. The most important thing.
The focus question. Bet that sparked some debate.
Oh, yeah. Arguments flew for market share, product improvement, cost containment. All important, right? But Kathryn pushed back. If everything is important, then nothing is. Focus is key.
So true. Who broke the tie?
Carlos actually made a really compelling case for focusing everything on new customer acquisition. He argued it would drive positive press, boost employee confidence, provide crucial product feedback, generate references, fuel follow-on sales. It touched everything.
Makes a lot of sense.
Kathryn agreed and made the final decision. 18 new customers by December 31st, and crucially, at least 10 being willing to be active references.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. A SMART goal, basically.
Exactly. And getting that clear, committed goal was a huge step forward. But the progress wasn't exactly linear after they left Napa.
Oh, what happened when they got back to the office? Reality check.
Big time. Lencioni describes a rapid deterioration of any progress. The team just clammed up again, became guarded, almost like they were pretending the offside had never happened at all.
That's so common, isn't it? The retreat high wears off fast back in the daily grind.
Depressingly common.
Mm-hmm.
Then Nick, the ambitious COO, threw a curveball. He proposed acquiring a company called Green Banana.
Green Banana. Okay. Why?
They were apparently hurting for cash, but had customers, employees, some tech. Nick saw it as a quick way to grow. Kathryn immediately raised concerns. Acquiring them would increase DecisionTech's size by 50% overnight, likely making the existing political problems even worse.
Seems like a valid concern. How did Nick react?
It's not well. He totally dismissed input from Mikey, saying something like, "This is strategy," implying she wouldn't understand. And then he turned on Kathryn, basically saying, "You don't know squat about our business. I think you should defer to Jeff and me on this."
Whoa. Directly challenging the CEO like that.
Yep. And Martin, the CTO,
Yep.
he just got up and left the meeting, walked out.
Wow. Okay, that's open rebellion. What did Kathryn do? She couldn't let that stand.
No way. She confronted Nick immediately afterwards, but privately. First, she called him out for slamming Mikey like that. Then she dug into his real motivation for pushing the Green Banana deal so hard.
And what was it?
Nick eventually admitted he felt completely underutilized, bored, basically watching my peers screw this thing up. He confessed he'd moved his family across the country expecting to run this place, and the reality wasn't matching his ambition.
So it was more about his own career path and frustration.
Largely. Kathryn didn't question his talent, but she put a stark choice to him. You have to decide what is more important, helping the team win or advancing your career.
Putting his loyalty to the test. Okay, what happened next? More fireworks.
You bet. At the very next staff meeting, Nick actually came clean to the whole group. He admitted he was out of line with Mikey and confessed the Green Banana push was really driven by his own need for more substantial work. He asked for their help to contribute meaningfully or said maybe he should just leave.
That takes courage, admitting that publicly.
It really does. But before they could even process that, Kathryn dropped into the bombshell. JR quit last night.
JR, the sales guy. Wow, why?
He went back to his old company. His reason. He apparently just didn't want to waste any more of his time in off-site meetings working out people's personal problems.
Ouch, a direct rejection of the team-building process.
Exactly. Mikey immediately questioned if maybe this whole team-building thing had gone too far. Like, see, we're losing people. But then, surprisingly, Martin, sarcastic, detached IAP. Martin spoke up and defended the process. He argued JR didn't leave because of the offsites. He left because he was actually afraid that he didn't know how to sell this stuff, their current products, in a shifting market. He wasn't adapting.
Whoa, Martin's stepping up. That's unexpected. So the team was at a real crossroads. Lose JR, Nick is questioning his role.
Critical moment. And Nick, to his credit, refocused them. Okay, JR's gone. What do we do now? Carlos volunteered to take over sales temporarily. Yan suggested Nick or Jeff could do it, pointing out Nick's background in field operations.
The very background Nick felt typecast by earlier.
Right. But this time, Nick accepted the sales leadership role. He even joked about it, saying, "It would be negligent of me to say no."
Huh. That's a huge shift for him. Shows that accountability and commitment were maybe starting to take root, even through the chaos.
Definitely felt like a turning point. But just as things seemed to be stabilizing a bit, another issue surfaced. Leaks.
Leaks. About what?
Kathryn found out info from the offsites was leaking out, specifically from the IT department, and particularly focused on Mikey's bad attitude.
Gossip travels fast. How did Kathryn handle that?
At the next offsite, she asked them directly, "What are you telling your own teams about what happens here?" Mikey admitted she'd made jokes about the touchy-feely exercises. Martin said he had frank conversations, which could mean anything. Yan admitted her team definitely talked amongst themselves.
So information wasn't staying contained within the executive team.
Exactly. Which led Kathryn to raise a really crucial, often overlooked question. Who do you all consider to be your first team?
Ooh, good question. Meaning, is it this executive group or the department they lead?
Precisely. Kathryn explained their primary loyalty. Their first team absolutely had to be this executive staff, not their individual departments. And this, Lencioni notes, was a tough one. especially for people like Jan, who felt immense loyalty to her finance team, her direct reports.
I can see that. It feels like betraying your people sometimes.
Kathryn clarified it wasn't about destroying departmental loyalty, but you do have to be willing to make it secondary to the health and goals of the executive team. That's a profound shift for many leaders.
It really hits home. You see that tension everywhere. Okay, so they addressed the first team issue. Did they get back to the big issues?
You did. They plowed on. Carlos, feeling more empowered maybe, voiced his worry that they still weren't tackling the big issues, specifically resource allocation. He suggested they had too much invested in engineering and not enough in sales, marketing, consulting, the customer-facing side.
The classic engineering versus sales resource battle. Bet Martin loved that.
Predictably, Martin got defensive immediately. It's not engineering we're investing in, it's the technology, he argued. But this time, Jan challenged him directly. Why do you get so defensive, Martin? She clarified. We're not questioning your intelligence. We're questioning how good our products need to be right now versus getting them sold.
Nice. Calling out the defensiveness, focusing on the issue. How did Martin respond?
He actually admitted his defensiveness was partly about avoiding individual blame if things went wrong. And Jan immediately pointed out, we're all doing that, Martin.
Ah, the healthy conflict Kathryn wanted. Calling each other out constructively.
Exactly. And it worked. The team then had a really vehement, but ultimately productive, debate about resources. They mapped out Martin's org, talked specifics, and made some tough calls. Decided to cut one future product line entirely, delay another, and crucially redeploy some engineers to help support the sales effort.
Wow. Real commitment, real accountability leading to a tough decision. That's progress.
Huge progress. The accountability discussions kept going. Nick, now leading sales, reviewed progress on that 18-deal goal. Carlos had to admit he hadn't started a key competitor analysis he was responsible for, and he initially tried to blame Nick's sales support people.
Uh-oh, passing the buck.
Yep. And Kathryn jumped on it. Challenged Carlos for not confronting the issue directly with Nick's team earlier, instead of waiting for the meeting. She reiterated, I don't think it's easy to hold anyone accountable, not even your own kids. It takes courage. And she connected accountability back to trust. Trust is knowing that when a team member does push you, they're doing it because they care about the team, not just to attack you.
That's a great way to frame it. Accountability is an act of care for the team's success.
Right. Then Nick announced mandatory sales training for all executives, arguing, we should all consider ourselves to be salespeople.
How did that go over? Especially with, say, Mikey.
Mikey was visibly peeved, very sarcastic about it. And then, almost perfectly timed to illustrate the remaining dysfunction, she presented these slick, polished new product brochures she'd created. She was clearly proud of them, her individual work, but she hadn't gotten any input from Nick or the sales team.
Oh boy, working in a silo.
Totally. Nick was apparently torn between being impressed by the quality and insulted by the lack of collaboration. Mikey just boasted, it's what I do best, focusing on her contribution, not the team's need.
And that must have been the final straw for Kathryn regarding Mikey.
It was the critical turning point. Kathryn decided right then she could not wait any longer. She dismissed everyone else from the room except Mikey.
The one-on-one. Okay.
Yeah.
How did that conversation go?
Kathryn was direct.
Yeah.
Mikey, I don't think you are a fit for this team, and frankly, I don't think you really want to be here.
Yeah.
Mikey was apparently shocked, got defensive, accused Kathryn of not understanding the business, even attacked Kathryn's job security, pointing out Kathryn had now lost both her sales and marketing VPs under her watch.
Wow, playing hardball. How did Kathryn respond to that direct attack? Sounds like a moment where many leaders might, hesitate.
Kathryn didn't waver. She calmly countered that her job wasn't just to keep execs, it was to build an executive team that can make this company work. She told Mikey she seemed bitter and honestly believed she'd be happier somewhere else.
Suggesting it was about Mikey's fit and happiness, too, not just performance.
Right. But Mikey refused to resign, threatened legal action, declared it was about principle.
The principal defense.
Yeah. So Kathryn, still calm, just started listing specific observable behaviors. No participation outside her own department meetings, never accepting criticism or apologizing, the constant rolling of your eyes, the rude and disrespectful remarks like telling Martin he's an SOB, and her obvious lack of interest in attending sales training.
Laying out the hard evidence.
It's exactly. Confronted with that stark evidence, Mikey finally seemed to deflate. She conceded, asked for severance, vested stock options. But even as she agreed to leave, she couldn't resist a parting shot, warning Kathryn the company was screwed without her, and that key marketing staff would follow her out the door.
What a difficult, draining conversation for Kathryn. Necessary, but tough. What was the impact on the rest of the team when they found out?
As you'd expect, they were surprised. There was, Lencioni writes, some degree of mourning and self-doubt. Even though Mikey was difficult, she was still a colleague. Nick worried about losing another exec so soon after JR. Jan wondered aloud if maybe they should have just tolerated her dysfunction. Martin bluntly asked, "Okay, who's next?" Fear creeping in.
Understandable reaction. How did Kathryn address that fear and doubt?
She shared a personal story, one she admitted she was not too proud of, from her very first management job. She had a top performer, this guy named Fred. Brilliant but annoying, universally disliked by the team, constantly undermining morale.
The brilliant jerk archetype.
Exactly. And Kathryn, as a young manager, had tolerated Fred's behavior because his individual results were good. She even promoted him, hoping it would help. But her tolerance of his behavior poisoned the whole department. Performance declined, good people left, and eventually Kathryn was fired from that job because of the mess.
Wow. That's a vulnerable story to share. What was her point?
Her lesson was crystal clear. Looking around the room at the remaining team, she said, "I don't plan on losing any of you, and that's why I did what I did with Mikey." The implication being, tolerating dysfunction destroys teams, even if it means losing talent.
Powerful connection. Everyone must have understood that parallel immediately. Fred was their cautionary tale.
Exactly. It reframed Mikey's departure not as a failure, but as a necessary act to protect the team.
That Fred story is just so relatable, isn't it? We've all seen or experienced something like that. It shows that sometimes the hardest leadership calls aren't just about removing someone, but about demonstrating that unwavering commitment to the team's health, refusing to tolerate behaviors that kill trust and accountability.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to rally the team and fill the gap, Kathryn focused on hiring an outside VP of marketing who would embody the principles they were working so hard on. Someone who would naturally, quote, demonstrate trust, engage in conflict, commit to group decisions, hold their peers accountable, and focus on the results of the team, not their own ego. Setting a new standard.
Building the team she wanted, brick by brick. Did things smooth out immediately then?
Not entirely smooth, but definitely different. Shortly after Mikey left, Nick and Jan got into another heated debate, this time about sales resources versus controlling expenses. Classic tension. And Jan, in a moment of frustration, exclaimed, "See, nothing around here has changed. Maybe the problem wasn't Mikey after all."
Uh-oh, sounding like regression.
That's what Jan thought. But Kathryn, listening in, was apparently smiling. She jumped in and said, "Actually, Jan, I don't see anything wrong here. This is the kind of conflict we've been talking about for the past month. It's perfect."
Reframing the argument not as dysfunction, but as healthy conflict in action.
Exactly. It highlighted that real teamwork isn't about suddenly agreeing on everything or avoiding arguments. It's about making those arguments productive. Getting issues on the table, debating passionately, disagreeing, but then committing to a decision and moving forward together. Even though there was still resistance sometimes, the team really started showing a genuine sense of collective purpose. The heavy lifting was starting to pay off.
So, after all that pain, all that rebreaking, how did the team actually fare? Did the traction hold?
It seems like it really did. At the next offsite, the progress was palpable. Nick, who once challenged Kathryn's knowledge, now boldly asked her to stop giving that speech about DecisionTech being behind the competition.
Getting confident. What did Kathryn say?
She smiled and replied she'd stop saying it when it's no longer true, still holding them to account. But the team themselves felt the shift. They assessed their progress. Jeff felt there was genuinely more trust. Jan admitted she was doing better with conflict, even if she didn't love it. Nick saw better commitment across the board, though he still worried a bit about consistent accountability.
And Martin, the quiet, sarcastic one.
Martin, surprisingly, declared he was now willing to get in their face his words with his peers if needed. He said he preferred the discomfort of confrontation over the politics of avoidance. Huge shift for him.
Wow. That's massive.
And Nick felt confident they wouldn't have a results problem going forward. The focus was there.
So what does this all mean in practice? How did it look day to day?
Lencioni writes the change was obvious in their regular interactions back at the office. Meetings were noisier, more energetic. There was more laughter. They started scheduling follow-up meetings naturally, without Kathryn having to force it. Issues were being tackled proactively. The culture was fundamentally shifting.
That sounds like real sustainable change, not just a temporary fix.
Exactly. And then came the ultimate gut check moment. About 3 months later, at a quarterly meeting, Joseph Charles, the new VP of marketing they hired, was there. Kathryn dropped another bombshell. Remember Green Banana, the company Nick wanted to buy? Well, now Green Banana wanted to buy DecisionTech.
Yeah.
And for quite a bit more than our estimated worth today. A very attractive offer. And the board, seeing the team's progress and newfound cohesion, had left the decision entirely up to them, the executive team.
Wow. Sell now for a big profit or keep building. What did they do?
Martin, of all people, reacted first. With unexpected passion, he apparently exclaimed, "No bloody way." They weren't selling out to a company named after a piece of unripened fruit.
Haha. Martin finding his voice.
Jeff then explained the board's thinking. This offer wasn't just about money. They wanted to know if this executive team truly had the fire in their bellies. Were they really committed to the company and to each other? Joseph, the new marketing VP, nailed it. It's a gut check.
So did they pass the gut check?
Overwhelmingly. The team, with only Yana hesitating initially due to her fiduciary duty perhaps, voted against the acquisition. They chose the harder path to keep building DecisionTech together over the quick, profitable exit, prioritizing their shared commitment.
That is a truly powerful moment, isn't it? A team once defined by backstabbing and dysfunction, now choosing the difficult work together over an easy out. Incredible turnaround.
It really is. And after that decision, they immediately turned to onboarding Joseph, the new guy, explaining the 5 dysfunctions model. Lencioni describes them engaging in passionate debates with him and each other, reaching crystal clear agreements with no sense of lingering bitterness. They were calling each other out, tying everything back to results. Joseph was apparently blown away.
Living the model, not just talking about it.
Exactly. And the results followed. Over the next year, DecisionTech sales grew dramatically. They started hitting their revenue goals consistently. Employee turnover dropped way down. Morale soared. Kathryn, focused on efficiency, even decided to trim her number of direct reports from 8 down to 5.
Streamlining the now functional team.
And then came a moment that, for me, really showed the ultimate triumph of the team. Jeff Shanley, the co-founder, the guy who was replaced as CEO, voluntarily stepped down from the executive staff.
Voluntarily, after all that.
Voluntarily. He went to report directly to Nick, who is now officially COO again. Jeff stated clearly that it just made more sense for him to be part of Nick's group now.
Yeah.
That it was the right thing to do for the company and for the team.
Astonishing. Jeff, the demoted founder, proactively sacrificing his own status and position on the top team for the good of the team and the company. That's putting the team first in the most profound way.
Isn't it? It just shows how deeply Kathryn's work had penetrated. It wasn't just about changing behaviors anymore. It was about changing core values, core priorities, about truly believing in collective success over individual status.
So this whole journey, this deep dive into DecisionTech's story, it shows that turning around dysfunction isn't about some magic bullet or grand gesture, is it?
Not at all. It's about a consistent, often really uncomfortable commitment to these fundamental behaviors, day in, day out. Starting with building that vulnerability-based trust, then learning to embrace healthy ideological conflict, driving towards clear commitment, holding each other accountable, that's a big one, and always relentlessly focusing on collective results.
Each step sounds simple enough in theory, right? But as the story shows, it's incredibly difficult in practice, especially that accountability piece.
We're incredibly difficult. It requires leaders like Kathryn who are willing to do that re-break, to face the discomfort head on. And it requires team members who are willing to choose that interpersonal discomfort over the easier path of dysfunctional politics and avoidance.
So thinking about this, what does it all mean for you listening right now? Maybe consider this. If your team isn't getting the results you expect, could it be less about talent or strategy or resources and maybe more about whether you and your team are genuinely willing to face these fundamental dysfunctions head on, honestly?
And if you were willing, what would that re-break look like for your own team? How would you even begin that painful but potentially transformative process?
Some tough questions to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 5 dysfunctions of a team. We really hope this has given you a shortcut to being well-informed and maybe sparked some ideas about what it truly takes to build a cohesive, high-performing team.